Hi, everyone. Oh, I said it. I said everyone. Okay. Welcome to the community chat. Mary and I are both here. Mary, are you going to join
There
us?
I am.
Mary.
I had the wrong camera.
It's what I've been doing the last few days is just putting together something for this Saturday, and it's a new kind of show. It's a go-between because we are taking a lot more time to do each individual story, and we're making them longer each time. Judy's is going to be a little over 40 minutes. Susan's is probably going to be an hour. And so it takes me weeks to do all the editing, the sound, creating all the wireframes and all the graphics and animations and CGI. And we want it to be very, very high quality. So I just finished a go-between show, which I hope you enjoy tomorrow night or tomorrow evening at 5. And also I've been really putting in a lot of hard work on Judy's story, making owls and hybrids and tall whites and parts of Hawaii at night with waterfalls.
Yeah. Speaking of Judy, let's bring everybody on.
Yeah.
Can you add yourselves to the stage?
No, they can't add themselves.
I did. Okay, let me do it.
Here we go.
There you go. We got a couple more.
Then we got Jim, and we got Joe, and Judy, and then we have Earl.
Hello, you guys.
So
I brought my friend.
Did you leave anybody out? No, everybody's here.
No, I think we got that's all of us for now.
Yeah, unless someone else pops in.
So this is our little monthly on the air support group. And so nothing leaves this room. Oh, we can't do that.
Oh, wait a minute. We're being broadcast.
So how is everyone? And I do mean everyone. I mean everyone in chat as well. I thank you all for being here. You're so wonderful. You're just always in such support. You're a family. We really, really appreciate it. So who wants to start? Who's got something weird, strange, and creepy?
Wait a minute, everybody has one of those. How about a recent weird, strange?
Yeah. Well, everybody's talked about the hearings a lot, although I would imagine Jim wants to talk a little bit about that. But I found it encouraging because the quality of the questions that the senators and congressmen asked showed that they had done a great deal of digging into this, because the questions were very, very strategic, I thought, and they really wanted to get the whistleblowers, who I felt they truly believe, to say the right things, and they did, despite Mr. Gold, who's just a buffoon. I mean, let's face it, he was the clown they added for comic relief, because that's all he was.
Oh dear.
Next.
Anyone else?
NASA. Never a straight answer is the correct,
Well, what he said is
what NASA is the acronym for.
Well, he said NASA is the pinnacle of transparency.
Okay.
Or the paradigm. I'm sorry, the paradigm of transparency, which was just ridiculous. NASA is not the paradigm of transparency.
Hey, James.
Because I've known people on the inside that have showed me things that I was never supposed to see. And it's, I mean, you don't even have to be shown that, just to go look at their archives and see how much of their photography has been doctored. Especially the older stuff before we had Photoshop. They had their own version of it, was basically copy and paste images over and over again over a certain area they didn't want you to see. And you could see the repetition in the same part of the image being repeated. And then there's the classic smears, a sort of, what they do to get rid of a license plate on television these days. So, hi, James.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. James. All right, I blabbed enough. Let's hear it.
What's been strange that's been going on lately? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I just,
I've
had my bits, but you guys, I want to hear from you.
I did have a strange dream about 2 nights ago, and I just attribute it to a stress dream. But it was a dream where I was with my husband and one of our children, and we were looking at the stars, and there was one that got really, really bright, and then it went boom, and we all died.
Oh
And
dear.
you all died?
Oh,
It was not a good dream.
that's not
It
a
was
good
not-
dream.
No.
No.
Well, that sounds like a nuclear strike.
I don't know what it was. I'm not going to think about it much. I
Right.
usually don't have dreams like that.
And when was this dream?
Like 2-3 nights ago.
2-3 nights ago. And,
Yeah.
and a little bit back before that, I had a dream where I was in the backyard. It was very real, very, very, very realistic. And there were clouds in the sky, and I could see the structure in it that looked like it was metallic, and it had these big metallic tubes with little portholes in it, stretching out clear across to the horizon from the center of this thing. And then it had ionized air around it, and there were bright bolts of looked almost like lightning of energy coming out of the center of it that were blue white. And then these the tubes, the little portholes and stuff started to glow kind of a golden orangey color, and these little balls started to drop out of them. They were descending and getting bigger as they did. And at that moment in time, I said, I think it might be a good idea if I go inside the house. And I woke up.
Wow, that's a cool dream. I just
What
think
the
I've been
hell?
watching too
Lucid
much
dream at the
Umbrella
end.
Academy.
You were aware that you were asleep.
Yeah, and I'm just hoping it doesn't ever happen. But well, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was a good thing. Maybe all those little balls are going to drop on Earth and make everybody happy and wonderful, and now they're hugging each other and burying all their military stuff, and just I mean, maybe let's look. Maybe that's what it was, right?
I had a weird dream, and it made me
Okay.
laugh, and it woke me up. And I told Lisa about it last night, and she couldn't stop laughing because it was so absurd. But it had like this sort of wisdom thing to it as well, because we're all way too connected to these darn things, right?
Yeah.
And I had this dream where now this was cool. It was like maybe I don't know if this was ET related or not, but I was a long distance runner when I was young, and this dream happened in Old Thousand Oaks, like circa 1979, when I used to run like 10 miles a day. And in the dream, I'm coming down from like I wasn't on the ground. I came down running. And I was on it's called Lynn Road in Thousand Oaks. I was on the very top of the hill.
I know the
and I
road.
start running down. Yeah, and my feet touch the ground, and I'm going and I'm going. And I was late for some appointment. I was supposed to meet these people over at the old Bob's Big Boy that was maybe 2 miles from where I was running from.
I know the one.
Well, I got there. Okay. Well, I got there, and somebody handed me a phone, but it was like an old phone, like somebody had pulled it off the wall. And I had this I had to lug this phone around, and I'm trying to, meet everybody and be friendly with everybody. And the phone rings, nobody's on the other end. I hang it up, and I left, and I realized I'm telling my friends, I said, "Oh, excuse me, I left my phone." So I go back in there. It's this gigantic thing, it's sitting there on the table, and I pick it up as like this, carrying the cross or something, and I just the phrase, I forgot my phone, and this absurd giant, artifact.
That's funny.
It woke me up. I woke up laughing, So that was my weird dream. I usually don't remember my dreams, but that one I remembered it. It hit my funny bone.
Yeah.
So
Does
up for
everyone
interpretation? Freud? Yeah,
No.
they're Freud.
I would have to ask, has anyone noticed that even the dreams, you're beginning to remember more easily, and they stay with you for days afterwards? Because that's not how it was in the past. Thank you, John. Wes, thank you. Thank you for the best wishes. Really appreciated. I mean, how about that? Have any of you noticed that you're starting to be more cognizant of your dreams? You're waking up, remembering them, and more and more
I
and more.
always have.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I have to start
don't
journaling
always,
them.
and I know
Not Jim says no.
Now, I wish my big change, my big sort of paranormal related stuff is up until about the end of October, I was having constant synchronicities, just 4 or 5 a day. And the kitchen lights went on when no one was there and a bunch of stuff. And then boom, it just stopped. And I probably have had the biggest bunch of minor hassles with insurance companies for my mother, for myself, that just all sorts of weird obstacles in my life. And then about 5 days ago, it boom, it just changed like that. And all the 333s, 111,
Mm.
all those numbers kept popping up. Um, and it just, and then I just working with the disclosure advocacy group, um, I'm sort of shifting roles, and it's nice to, as soon as that happened, and I've been working all day on paperwork and stuff because we're forming a nonprofit, and everything just fell into place just like that. And it's like I was going like this, then boom, boom, up, and it's all, and the synchronicities. It was like a light switch going off and on at the same time. So that was, I didn't see anything in the sky or anything like that, but that freaked me out more than seeing something in the sky.
Wow. I did have something that I want to share before I forget. The other morning, and just like 2 mornings ago, I woke up. I'm looking, I don't know, I'm looking across the bed at the door. And I close my eyes, and you know how it works. If you're staring at something long enough, you close your eyes, you'll see a negative image of it get your retina.
Right.
And I saw that, but what I also saw was a gray standing right there looking at me from the open door. So I open my eyes up again, and it's not there, but I close my eyes and it's there again. And I was wide awake. It's almost like it was invisible, but still somehow leaving an imprint on my retina when I closed my eyes. I could see it, and it got me thinking, if sometimes in your house and you think there's something there, or you saw a shadow, try closing your eyes. I don't know. It either that or it was just some weird freak thing, but I mean, it was clearly a gray, and I could see it so clearly.
Wow.
That's really interesting. I've never heard that before. But
Me neither.
that you saw something and you closed your eyes, and the after image was still there, and you recognized the shape.
Right, but it
silhouette. I
wasn't
think
there
that's
when my eyes were
fascinating.
open. I could see the door, the impression of the room and stuff, and it kind of fades. You know how it does,
Yeah.
Right.
especially because the light coming down the hallway is brighter.
Yeah.
But it was backlit, and you could see it standing right there.
Yeah. Thank you.
It was really something.
Yeah, that's
Hi,
cool.
Andy. Hi, Andy.
No, that was my son Joshua. He was bringing
hi,
back a book. That's okay. He's on his way
The
home.
guitarist? Yeah. So,
Judy, it's good to see you again. Last time I saw you, you were telling your story in the studio.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know. It feels
So
like
much
yesterday.
fun. And
No,
such
it was
an
a lot of
honor
fun.
to-
Thanks for
to
helping out.
yeah,
be there.
you have me really
My
busy.
pleasure.
Really
I'm
busy.
sorry. I know there's a
It's
lot
okay.
of scene changes.
Well, I've been working so hard on trying to get the tall white to look right, and it's really difficult to. So I hope you like what I came up with.
I know I will. I
It's
know
very
I will.
dreamy
It's
and
great work.
very strange looking and very feminine and very just. It's really yeah. And I
Yeah.
recreated the waterfall and at
Oh.
night and what you saw up on top and all that. So and we have our white owl now, and it's flying very well. But there's still. I'm only 10 minutes into 37 minutes,
Wow.
and I've been working on it for 2-3 weeks. So
Wow. That's a lot of
Yeah.
work.
And do you have a copy of that X-ray of the object in your nose?
I don't, and it was way back in like 97.
Mhm.
I mean, they went digital. It wasn't even digital at that point. It was still the film that you processed.
Right.
Um,
Same way with my arm.
so I don't
And
know
I
if they
don't have that X-ray
digitized.
either.
Yeah, I don't know if they digitized those films and saved them. I mean, it's part of my medical record, but they
Then
might not have.
it should be in your medical records.
It should be. I know. I should try before we
Yeah.
move away from here. I should go over to the hospital and
See
try
if
to
you can
find
find it. I mean, I'd love to cut it into the show, but
I would like to see it again.
Yeah.
My husband, it's weird how we remember things differently. My husband remembers it as a CT. I remember it as a flat film. We thought it was a series of sinus film. I was an X-ray tech,
Right.
and I had TMJ issues. So to get that joint on the film, you did a sinus series. It's like 5 to 7 films, and yeah, it was right there. It was right there. I swear.
So
And they both saw it. We all saw it.
Because of your profession. Do you think if my arm gets X-rayed again, that what I described to you, what's in the film, would still be there? I mean, it doesn't.
If it was an artifact, no. If it was something, well, not on the film, but my husband tells me that there's different ways to get artifacts now in the images.
Mhm.
I stopped working when they went digital, but we just lost Steve.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, I'm being unplugged again.
Steve unplugged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, if you got that film taken again, and there is something in your arm that caused that, yes, of course it would be seen again, but it might be an artifact, and I think it'd be worth it. But you can't just go up to your doctor and say, really like a second X-ray of this film. You can't. Insurance isn't going to pay for it, and they don't have a reason to order it.
But I do know doctors here that I'm very close with, and who knows, maybe they can pull some. I'd be curious
My husband's a
because
radiologist. He's the partner in the group, and we just tried to go in and get something like that done. And we had to put it through the proper channels and everything. And years ago, I'll tell you something I probably shouldn't say out loud, but years ago when we first met, and we had this little, not when we first met, we first got married. We had this little dog, Bentley. It was an Italian Greyhound, and he could jump so high, and he jumped way too high, and he was down in the basement of our new house, and he fell, and we thought he cracked some ribs. We bundled him up like a baby and took him into the ER and took an X-ray of his chest.
Oh, wow.
Is that crazy? Yeah. So I don't know. Try it. If you have a doctor friend that has an X-ray machine.
Well, the guy that took the X-ray, Roger Lear was there, and then because he's the one that wanted the X-ray done, and he got it done, but Roger had to leave, so he wasn't there when he brought it out and showed it to me, and he put it on the backlit piece of white, plastic, and turned on the light, and pointed at it and said, how'd you break your arm like this? You must have been in terrible pain. And you could see a very dark line running through it. And it wasn't like an artifact, because if it was an artifact, it would have went clear across the entire photograph.
Steve, are you asking if it would still show up?
Well, what I mean by artifact is it could have been something. Now you're talking about a film that he put up. So that's a piece of film that's inside a cassette. And on the cassettes, there's screens. There could have been like a scratch on the screen that would show up as an artifact, because it would block the X-rays. It would be white. If it didn't, it would be opaque and be black.
It was dark, and it was a perfect 45-degree angle line, and it ended at the bones. It didn't go off the edge of it. It didn't go
beyond.
It was just, and he was emphatic.
That's not an artifact.
He said that was a break. Yeah. And he got mad at me because I said, I don't know what you're talking about, because I've never broke my arm. And he got really annoyed at me, because he says, look, this is what I do for a living. I know a break when I see it, and you're not telling me the truth. So we have nothing more to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've always wondered if I had it. Well, Roger had the X-ray, and then of course, after he passed away, all that stuff, I don't know what happened to it, but I get the feeling that the family just let it go over to the powers that be, and they just took it all, implants included.
Lost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Judy, would something like that, if someone had another X-ray, would that still be showing all these years later?
I mean, I don't know what it is, so it's impossible to say. It was
No, I
some
mean,
kind of wound.
if there was a break,
If there
would
was a
that-
break, well, it continues to heal. So you'll
And
see
What's
scar
the-
tissue.
so it may
What-
not
what-
show.
What does the net look like on
A bone,
film
like a bone fracture that's healed.
that's healed?
Well, usually it'll be whiter, the area that's reconstructed bone, because it's a little denser than the original bone. So it'll show whiter.
But this was
Hmm.
dark.
Yeah, I don't know. That when something that's black on X-ray means all the X-rays are going through and hitting the film. Nothing's stopping it from going through. That's how you need to think about it. Like, okay, so you got something that's very dense, like the bone in my finger, that stops the X-rays from
Right,
hitting
right.
the
I get it.
film on
I
the
get it.
side.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he thought he must have thought it was broken right then and there or something. I don't know.
You didn't have any pain,
There's
though.
a gap between them, you know. I mean, he was freaky. He freaked out about it. He did not feel comfortable. He wanted me to leave, you know.
You wanted me to leave.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is strange. I mean, I would I would encourage you to get another X-ray if you could.
Right. Yeah, it is strange.
I would like to
Well,
have this X-rayed again
It's still
too,
there.
because
Yeah.
I imagine it's still there. I mean, my body, if it absorbed it completely, then it'd be gone, I suppose. But
Well, the one in my ear is still there, and it's been there since the 90s. So hey, it's turned into let's talk about our implants night.
yeah,
Uh,
let's change the subject.
Yeah.
I want to hear about
Yeah.
the hearings because I didn't listen to all of it.
Jim,
What
the
happened?
hearings,
Jim,
Yeah.
could you talk about that?
it closed very well, I thought too. I really liked what the lady senator had to say about why would anybody spend as much money and trouble and resources to cover up something like this, which they know they're doing, if there wasn't something to it. And I also liked what Lou had to say about the fact that, he's risking going to jail and he's protecting at all costs his sources. Yeah, and people say he's just doing it for the money and he's just doing it for the book sales and stuff. What, the nickel 98 that he gets from Amazon? I mean, you don't get paid to go on television, and so no one's getting rich or maybe some fame, but recognition. But you're not making any money coming forward and spilling your guts like that. You're not.
Yeah.
So you
Jim?
must be doing it for the right reasons, I would think. Maybe I'm just naive. I don't know. But I get the feeling that all those guys were very much telling the truth. What do you think, Jim?
Lou is the real deal.
You think so?
Yep.
He's a regular person. I can't talk about a lot because I've been working a little bit as his lawyer lately. And
Yeah.
but he's a genuine person. Throw any one of us into that maelstrom and
Yeah.
see how we come out.
Yeah.
He's done a wonderful job, and he's something I've because of being involved in DAG, our group. I'm learning and meeting a lot of intelligence operatives,
Mhm.
and he's wired differently than most of them. He's a very outgoing person. Because I don't want to make generalizations, but Lou's just some guy you went to high school with,
Yeah.
that no matter that, had 400 friends without even trying. He's just a nice person.
And Jim, how did you feel about the other gentleman?
The Admiral is the real deal.
Yeah, I like
Oh,
him.
that, yeah.
He doesn't have the same kind of knowledge base that Lou does, but he's got the scientific technical side of things. Climatologist, I'm not sure what is exact,
Yeah.
probably.
But he's aware of a lot of things that happened that have been covered up.
The other two I really don't know. Believe it or not, I don't really follow this stuff that much. I've lived it. I'm
You?
tired. Yeah,
You have books out about it.
yeah, well, but I mean, just the general pop culture aspect of it.
Yeah.
I really don't. And um, but Lou, and I know that people that know the admiral, and he's a first class individual, and they're not doing that because they've had a lifelong UFO obsession or something. They're doing it because something's not wrong with the world,
Yeah.
and we just can't ignore it.
Yeah, there sure is.
And so half the people I work with now, never heard of a UFO in their lives, or thought it was something of Hollywood until watching what Congress is doing and a lot of the ex-military people. But I sorry, I've gotten off on explaining about Lou, but it's really okay. Whenever the Pentagon takes a year to go through your book, and take stuff out, leave stuff in, fight about it, whatever. It's really, what Congress person Mace said that Steve, you were talking about, why all the trouble, if there's nothing there. And
what are your feelings about this immaculate constellation?
I don't know a lot about it. I'm probably the only one in my group that doesn't know a lot about it because I've been too busy working on the legal stuff, frankly.
Mhm.
And so I hate to say it, I've sort of fallen behind on, what's going on. But one thing that the hearing was run as well as could be expected.
Yeah.
But it had a few problems, and that some are inherent in the system. Having done that kind of stuff on the state and local level, whenever you have a subcommittee, it's usually just 4 to 6 people, 7 people, 8 people, odd numbers, but usually, a small group. And usually their meetings don't occur that often. Usually the full committee spends most of their time. So they're not used to running meetings. And a lot of times the meeting time, like Congress people were getting up and going all the time and coming back. There were votes going on. And so usually with a big committee, they'll recess whenever a vote's going on and then come back. So everyone has the full attention. So a lot of the questions weren't being sort of a professional observer of this stuff. A lot of the questions, especially near the end, when members were running in, were asked about things that were talked about before. And in a particular constellation, the chair put copies on everyone's dais for them at the beginning of the hearing. Well, typically a full committee, you give it to them the night before the deadline, and then the committee members can read what you're presenting, and so they can tailor their questions.
And so they didn't even have the information.
Yeah. See, what are you going to do? Not listen to the people under oath, or are you going to read an exhibit for the next 20 minutes to finish it all up? And so, there were a few glitches that could have gone better, but the day overall, starting ahead of time, the witnesses, a lot of them met with different senators and Congress members ahead of time. And it was amazing that the Senate was doing it because they were also taking their leadership vote at the same time. The kind of thing that you normally clear your calendar for, like picking your leader for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And they're off. A lot of them are off meeting, with, some of the UFO witnesses, and so that shows the kind of interest, especially in the Senate. And after the hearing was over with, the senators sponsored the group. I think it was Marco Rubio or Mike Rounds sponsored the group, and they used a hearing room, and all the witnesses came in, and the UAP Disclosure Protect or Defense Fund, one of the new groups, ran. Actually was the host of it, and so they had a informal press conference plus a meet and greet.
Mm.
And Mike
That's
Rounds
interesting.
speaking, got up and spoke and went forcefully into saying how important it is that we get this stuff out, and in a very positive way. And he's not a show horse senator. You don't see him on cable TV all the time, on the talk shows or anything. But he has been for the Republicans point person on two issues: UAP and AI. And I don't think that's a coincidence.
Mm.
I honestly don't, because half the questions are about whether are they automatons, or are they living beings? Some act in sort of robot-like manner, little grays,
Yep.
So it tells me that there's a lot more going on, and it may take longer for disclosure because I think we're learning more. Some of them.
Yeah, some of them. But that's better than what we had before, which was none of them.
Is a pretty
It was a-
small
it was a
percentage.
source of- It was a source of comic relief for most of them long
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah,
And really, because they really weren't informed, so they had nothing to go on, so they just went on the general consensus, which was this is all a bunch of bull. So, but you could really see them
Changing
take it seriously, which is really
Mhm.
something. I mean, to me, that was the real breakthrough in all this. It took 2 hearings to get them to that point.
Yeah, I didn't see any eye rolling.
Nope.
No, they took it very, very
No.
seriously, and then that was really something to see. It really was something good that happened this week.
Yeah.
Well, I know Mary and Steve, and well, a lot of you, the group is from California, but on the Democratic side, watch for Robert Garcia.
Robert Garcia.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
he is a former mayor of Long Beach, was
Mhm.
the League of California Cities, which is the umbrella organization for all cities. He was their president and was highly respected. And he is he's sort of come to the fore as the point man on the Democratic side on this issue, and has worked with Schumer on the other side and the senators. And so we've got a local person who's going to be on the forefront of this issue. So
Okay.
just pay attention. You won't see him. He won't be in front of a camera like Tim Burchett or someone like that. And they have their place. They help get the word out.
Mhm.
But I'm sort of trying to talk about workhorses instead of show horses. If I had to divide the world in two categories.
But still, the general public is still back 50 years ago. I mean, they don't have time to watch the hearings. They don't notice what's being said about it in the news. And there was a lot of news about it in case you didn't hear about it, but they don't watch the news either. And I mean, like, I know that Mary's 2 daughters probably know nothing about it whatsoever. And
Wow.
they are a microcosm of our society. And, I guess that's what we're all trying to do is we're trying to get this out to people. I mean, for heaven's sake, we have non-human intelligence. We don't know if it's from other planets or not. I think a lot of it is, but it's a big range. And the bottom line is we have something here that's not human. It's been here for a long time. And this is really important stuff. I mean, I think as a race of beings, we would benefit from knowing that we're not alone. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, it wasn't just Washington this week. On November 9th, the
Well, maybe
Peruvian-
humans would treat each other better, if they knew that we were being observed. Is my feeling. Sorry, they were cutting in and out. I can't tell who is talking there, but I mean, my take.
No, you're cutting in and out, Earl. That's what's happening. You're right now. You're
what
frozen.
My hope is that maybe people watched. I probably just cut out for all you guys. It's like all the.
My dog is
more
screeching.
technology helps us, the more it lets us down.
True.
Well, it's all back engineered anyway, so we don't really fully know how it all works. So.
Oh well.
Well, but talking about the Peruvian legislature had a legislative hearing about the Nazca mummies,
Oh yes.
and what happened is the government was always, the Ministry of Culture was coming down very hard on this one university where most of the a lot of the good research is being done, and the legislature as a group pulled this up to their level, and want to have more hearings about it. The upshot was, they need more high quality testing,
Yes.
and but it looks like the real deal. Not all of it, but some of it looks like the real deal.
It needs more investigation.
Yeah.
So Jim,
That puts pressure on the U.S. If something's going to come out someplace else.
Jim, have you been watching? Why am I drawing a blank on his name? George Knapp's show on Netflix.
No, I haven't, but I watched him interviewed on Matt Ford's podcast.
Okay,
and, it was just fascinating.
Well, the show is too, and what's fascinating to me about it is that, on one hand, you had one production company work for Netflix and make the Manhattan and Alien Abduction series, 3-part series, with Carol's Case, which they just destroyed everybody, made everybody look bad. It was a horrible, horrible, rotten, miserable show. And then you've got George Knapp's show, and he's doing serious investigative reporting and going down to South America and showing video and some pretty hard evidence to support all this stuff. And he's so energetic about it, because that's the way George always is. He's really got a passion for the subject, and they're letting him just do his job, and they're not putting any spin on it. They're not having skeptics or debunking anything he's doing. It's like he has total control over it, which is very unusual for anyone to have that, working with people in Netflix and the big moguls of the media. They all want to make it, they all want shock jocks. They want scary stuff. That's why they did what they did with the alien abduction in Manhattan. They ruined those people in that story. They made Bud look terrible. But here's George shining like a golden light. It's really something. Any thoughts on that?
He's an amazing. He's just a good journalist.
But how did he get them to let him do it his way? He obviously has control.
Well, he's got a lot, but he's been in broadcasting.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
So if anyone's going to do it, he's not. I hate to jump out, but I need to go to the next room for a little bit, so I'm going to turn off my camera. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I'm an old man.
Okay.
So Joe,
Hi.
what's been going on with you?
Well, to stay on topic, I watched the Netflix show I forget the title, Manhattan something or other.
Yeah, the horror show.
And
Yeah.
I agree with Steve. I watched the entire thing, painful.
Oh my God.
And I thought, who was the fellow, the hypnotherapist?
Bud Hopkins.
Bud Hopkins,
Bud
yeah.
Hopkins.
I know nothing about him, but
What-
I thought, I thought he looked. I thought it was not well done.
So you did not get a feeling that he was a really nice guy who was serious about this subject and had done a
imagine-
lot of good work?
I always give people the benefit of the doubt
Right.
as to their character and how
Yeah.
courteous and nice they may be to other people. But his handling of that particular patient, I just thought was laughable.
That's
At
not
least
how
the
it
way
went
they-
down.
At least the way they edited
Mm-mm.
it.
Yeah, it was the way they edited it.
it. They did it. They edited that stuff to make it turn out that way. 'Cause
Yeah,
that's
it
not how
looked-
Bud. I mean, Bud trained Yvonne Smith and so many other people, and I spent time with him myself, and he is a wonderful human being. Now, did you know that the troll face lady that was at the very beginning of the show saying, "I'm going to get you," and you're lying and all that? That was his late wife, who had a vendetta
Yep.
against Bud. So you see how that went, and they played on that, which was really wrong of them. She never got to see the show finish because she passed away, but she was bitter, and she just really wanted to get Carol and Bud both, and she got her way.
Now, that was the woman in the movie that was trying to debunk everything eventually.
Yeah, that was
The
his wife.
journalist. The
Okay.
photojournalist, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and all those sets were contrived. You know, it was the whole thing was a setup. It was just awful, and there are plenty of people in the UFO community that thought it was great, but they're not.
Oh.
They don't know what they're talking about. They also thought Fire in the Sky was a great movie. I've heard that once. I've heard it 1,000 times, and it just shows me that they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I felt badly after watching it because I know that reflects on all of us.
And all of us.
When
Mhm.
people that aren't familiar with,
And then there's the guy that does the I won't say his name, but he does very, very popular. He's got millions of viewers. He does shows almost every month, and he goes into detail, and he did Terry Lovelace recently, and
Oh,
just he
heckle.
builds you up all the way through it. You think, wow, this is such a great case, and then at the end he debunks it and just completely tears it all apart and makes the person look terrible. He did the same thing with the Pascagoula case when he said at the end they were all drinking, a lot of drinking. He underlined, and it's
That's
just,
rubbish
you know,
too.
These people, it is rubbish, and you know,
Knew Calvin.
Again,
He was
that-
a close friend.
that's why
they
we're
were
doing
not
Breaking the
drinking.
Silence. That's why we're doing Breaking the
Yeah.
Silence, because there's no one else out there giving people a fair chance at telling their story without all that garbage. You know, we just need
And-
more people to watch.
And that's
see us.
why we have secret stories, so people can even tell their story
Yeah.
if they don't want to be named.
Now, because of Earl, a lot of things are because of Earl. We're hooked up
What
with
did I do now?
no, we're hooked up with that radio network, and I've been talking to Bill, and he's syndicating our
Right.
whole show. And he was saying,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
you know, I don't want to run video. I'm just going to run the audio portions of your videos. And I said, don't do that. Run the videos. He says, well, I don't want to take away from your channel. I said, trust me, you're not, because it's a known fact. Whitley and I talked about this just a few days ago. We're being ghosted
Mhm.
by YouTube. Our channels are being ghosted. And it's clear if you look at the analytics that they're doing something because they don't want people to watch what we're doing.
They're just not showing
Yeah.
it. That's all they're doing. They're
So-
just not promoting it.
Bill's going to syndicate us, and I said, just run them, go with it, because you're going to reach so many more people that way with our stuff, and that's what we're trying to do. Because, you know, for every Netflix show that does this to us, we want to strike back with 10 more that don't.
Yep.
Yep.
Hmm.
Well, we're a community now. I mean, there's
Yes,
all
we
of
are.
you. There's all of you, and without you, we wouldn't need to be breaking the silence, and we wouldn't
And
have
we're talking
anything.
about the people in in chat right now too. This is
Yes,
our community.
absolutely.
This is our family.
John
These are
and
people.
Zoe and
Yeah,
Jamie and everybody.
everybody here. Too many to list, but we're so grateful.
I'm looking at some of these comments. A young woman named Zoe and a fellow named John, Zoe Kessler and John Conder. Zoe is agreeing with me about the Netflix show, and Mr. Conder is mentioning Travis Walton and how discouraged she was at seeing the
Oh
finish
yeah,
of Fire.
they lied to him.
I talked to Travis Walton a few years ago, and he said that same thing to me, that he was hoping for the best, but it certainly was not what he was expecting. And he indicated that he understood there's a lot that Hollywood has to do to sensationalize a movie just to sell tickets.
Yes.
The story was considerably different than what he had actually experienced and shared.
They're getting rid of me again.
Oh man!
There you go, Steve.
So I have some news about,
Oh,
and I mean they put this. It is public that Bud Hopkins, who his right hand man Peter Robbins.
Peter
was
Robbins.
there for Peter was there for all the hypnotic sessions that Bud did, and they had an office situation where Peter would be upstairs. This is back with typewriters still. He would do a page for the book and he would float it down to Bud, who is down, he had the little loft upstairs. And that was their system, he'd just send the papers down. But Peter, when he and Linda Napolitano, who was the main witness in that case, were brought into that production, to the Netflix production, they were told there was not going to be any preamble. There was not going to be any additions as far as debunkery goes or any of that. And
that's right.
They signed a contract, and so right now there is a lawsuit that is, it's been put out there. So let's just send positive thoughts to both Linda and for Peter Robbins, because Bud Hopkins is no longer with us, and he was a pioneer in this field. He was one of the guys that started the hypnotic regression thing for experiencers. That was Bud who did that. He was a man with great compassion, a man with just a good man, and they're trying to smear him now. It began with his ex-wife, Carol Rainey, but I don't believe that. I think there's other forces out there that want to harm the reputations there. So I was very, very happy to hear about that. I got a call from Peter. He told me, because he knew I was very upset about that mini series or whatever they're calling it.
It was just awful.
But it was definitely a hit job. It was a hit job.
That director needs to be flipping burgers somewhere.
Yeah. Behind bars, maybe,
being a film
something.
director myself, but
bad.
you know what? You had no business doing that. And Joe, I knew the writer of Fire and Sky, who was Mel Tremaine's son.
Yeah.
And I've told this story before. I don't know if you've heard it. I'll make it short. I was at a MUFON meeting back in the day when the film came out, and everybody sitting in the audience was oohing and awing over him being there and giving him all this praise. And I just sat there very patiently and waited for my turn to ask a question. And when I held my hand up, he said, "All right, Steve, let's hear it," because we knew each other. And, I asked him what happened. Why was the whole scene on board the craft completely different from the book? I mean, it wasn't even remotely similar in any way, shape, or form. And he got mad. He raised his voice at me and he said, "Steve, what would you have me do? They told me if we see those black-eyed aliens one more time in a movie, we don't have a film," meaning that he'd be out of a job. And he said he had no choice. but he did have a choice. You know, you could have walked away, but he didn't. And I did bring up to him, I said, well, Tracy, they didn't have black guys. And that's when I got yelled at by someone who was in charge of the MUFON meeting. I was told to sit down and shut up. They actually protected him. Well, he was their guest, so I got that. But, you know, if you're going to do something like that and be in the public and going in front of MUFON and stuff, you got to expect that somebody, and I was the only person out of, I don't know, 200 people in the room that asked him that question. What the hell happened? So that's what happened. They told him that you got to make a scary scene out of that, so we have a movie. Otherwise, go to unemployment. So
when I spoke to Mr. Walton, again, incredibly nice guy, and
very soft spoken.
He indicated that he understood why they had to do what they did. Obviously, he would have preferred it to be more along the line of what his recollection of it was. But he was a very forgiving guy about how that turned out.
Yeah,
but it wasn't like, as you say, it wasn't what his experience was.
No. And it was hard too, because after that film came out, a lot of my friends and family who knew I had an affinity for this stuff, that I was interested in it, and they all rushed to me and said, "Jay, you must have really liked that. What did you think? It was great, wasn't it?" And they didn't get it. So,
well,
yeah, and
well,
yet
you're doing it right, okay?
well, yeah. Well, the thing is that Universal did Barney and Betty Hill, a 1970s TV movie, and it was great. It was right to the book. It was right to what really happened. So why couldn't they have done that again? You know,
because they're appealing to the masses, not to people that are discerning.
Yeah. Maybe that's going to change now that people are starting to take this more seriously. Now that we have obviously people in our government who are very concerned about it and are taking it very seriously, and people with that are high caliber, impressive backgrounds from working from the inside in our military and other areas coming forward and talking credibly like this. Maybe the studios will start to realize that. I know Spielberg does and has consistently shown that in his approach to this subject. Hopefully the rest of them will start to get that maybe telling the truth actually will sell, and we don't have to make things stranger and scarier than what people are experiencing. It's enough. Their story is enough because it'll work. I mean,
yeah, we are not entertainment.
No, well, they are,
but we're not.
But yet Spielberg will do a film like Close Encounters, or he'll do a 4-part series like Encounters that he did, which also was for Netflix. And it was honest and straightforward and treated the subject matter with dignity. George Knapp's doing that now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you remember back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, there was a CBS miniseries based on Bud's book, The Intruders.
Yes.
About Deb Cobble. And they made changes to it, but the changes were meant to fit it into the TV schedule.
Right.
And it was a pretty, if you recall, you can.
Oh, yeah. I watched it.
You can still pick it up on Netflix. It's still pretty decent. You know, at least they tried.
Yeah.
You know.
How about Jack Webb? Remember his show, UFO?
Oh, yeah.
Back in the 70s. It was really cool.
That's right.
Because Jack Webb was one of us. He took this stuff very seriously. Only the facts, ma'am.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't heard from James
Dragnet.
James, you've been so quiet.
James,
what's going on?
Yes.
Oh, I'm just waiting my turn to talk.
You're supposed to get in there. Go, hey.
Yeah, I guess from the congressional hearing, I took from it, the stalking, not like SKOCK, but stalking like SKAALK, like a hunter, the nuclear aircraft carriers. And so I thought that that was
Oh
pretty
yeah,
an
yeah.
interesting fact that the admiral talked about. If they stock nuclear aircraft carriers that they feel is an important prudence for them, then what is that about experiencers and potential DNA containers that they find more valuable than others? That must be just on the same level of priority, I would assume. And so, what level of stalking are they doing on civilians then? Is kind of what I started thinking about. And it was also interesting too. I had a really interesting conversation with Michael Schrapp, an aerospace historian, this morning, and I said, "Hey, Michael, what's your take on this? Like the general public and everything. Like, what should they take away from this?" And he said, "They're all paper tigers. This whole thing's not going to go anywhere. Nobody
Hmm.
got any evidence. Richard Dolan's mad. A lot of people are upset that this isn't going anywhere. This is a Republican hearing, so these people can do their song and dance." The real people that should be in here are the aerospace CEOs, the defense contractors. They're the ones that
That's
should be
true.
sitting up there, not these low-lying fish and different people, because there's generals and all these different things. And he was saying that he was pissed. Honestly, he was pissed. He was like, this isn't what he wanted. And I think there's something to be said about that because, at the bottom line, none of these people have the security clearance to get any of the real information. At the end of the day. And so I want to say that this is a positive thing. But really, when we think about it, since the government is so many different divisions, you know what I mean? We're not talking about one specific group. And so they all have kind of compartmentalized and have their own, little budgets and whatnot. How does that reflect with the socioeconomic influence of the military taking this technology and turning it into bombs, into lasers, into weapons? So, yeah, I thought that was pretty fascinating, to think like, hey, I'm really excited about this, but then at the end of the day, none of these people have the security clearance, and none of the people that are on the stage are actually the key players in the industrial military complex. That we're seeing these low-lying fish, and the big shark that's in the water continues to do what it wants to do. So, and then another thing too, Mike Gold, which somebody said they didn't like him, but that's fine. He said 75% of the UFOs are ours. So I mean, and
Oh,
that just like that
come
just went,
on.
right in there. So it's interesting, all of the things that are being thrown around. You know what I mean?
That's why we're using liquid fuel rockets and solid fuel boosters to try to get back to the moon and Mars. I
Exactly.
mean, and then the other thing too that I will shoot full of holes of that notion every time is that I know aviation. I'm very involved in it. I have been involved in it all my life. And the whole purpose of a top secret aircraft is to keep it secret. You don't fly it over populated areas. Otherwise, we would have known about the SR-71 and the 117A long time ago, but they kept those covered up for like 10 years before they went public. And it never leaked ever once to the public. So, people are always telling me the big triangle I saw fly over my backyard that night when I was on the phone with Whitley,
I
that was one
know.
of ours. That was a TR-3B. Wrong. TR-3B was something Whitley made up in one of his books. I think it was them, or maybe it was the Grays. And then, people ran with it. But, the thing was huge. It was absolutely dead silent. It was flying over a major populated area right near a major military base right across the street from me. How top secret is that? It wasn't one of ours.
Well, I mean, regardless, the muddying of the waters could potentially be a part of the espionage. Nobody really knows the
Sure.
truth to that. I guess
Yeah.
what's really, really a big takeaway is that I had a conversation with a friend who's not interested in UFOs and called me up today and said, "Oh my God, the hearing was amazing, James. Did you see it? Did you get the things that I sent to you?" So, in a way, this is a good thing. But at the end of the day, if the technology is being held by aerospace companies and the CEOs are the ones that hold all of the keys to the kingdom, is that ever going to come out? Especially when none of these people have any teeth or any clearance. And so, and, you know, that's a problem.
Well, they're
And
going to
that's
have
a
to
problem.
force it out. They're going to have to.
Well-
they're going to have to force them. Yeah, that's the whole thing. And will that
This-
happen? I hope.
Well, and
This-
let's have another hearing where they don't give us any evidence, right? Here's the Pentagon still saying UAPs do not exist. So the intent of the Pentagon is to say that, hey guys, but then at the same time we have military leaders that are saying that they have these things, but then they don't give us any evidence. So it's very paradoxical, you know? I mean, how does somebody in the general public even know what to do with any of this is beyond me. You know, I mean, how do you navigate this? Do you go and
Well-
buy land in Oregon and start an organic farm because there's an alien invasion coming? Or do you see it as the military knows what's going on and it actually is a threat and they're worried about their capabilities when they've been trying to, when we're talking about a crash retrieval program? We were
Yeah.
literally talking about the military getting a hold of these things. And what do we
Yes.
know what the military does? They make it secret.
Nothing.
They
The
make
crashes-
it secret.
the crashes
they
were deliberate.
compartmentalize it. So what about the Blue Room? Who has the keys to that? We know that that's a real place at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So, you know, it's just insurmountable what they're talking. It's like we're talking about the Titanic, right? And we're like, hey, this thing's going to crash, right? But then when it crashes, the iceberg is so big, it takes up the whole fucking ocean. You know what I mean? So it's like, this is such a big thing that's going on and so many people are going to go down over it that the people at power, I mean, why would they want to release any of this anyways? Do we really want to give the Chinese or any of our allies like a better advantage on figuring out their own crash retrieval programs? Because we know that Russia and China potentially have those. So everything must be being done on purpose so that the public thinks that the, you know, Congress is in control or whatever.
Kind of like the elections.
There's no, it's just all an illusion of power. You know what I mean? And any administration that gets in there is going to do, you know, probably similar things. And, you know, the espionage and everything goes on. I mean, Michael Schrapp said that every single day in the 80s, the black government was spending $100 million a day. Think about what they're doing right now. They must be up into the trillions and trillions of dollars. That must mean that their research projects are insane. They must be using experiencers as catnip and bait so that they can watch things come down, try to knock it out of the sky. I mean, the implications of what's going on reach so far past Immaculate Constellation that what does this mean for the civilian population that's not being protected? I don't see anybody doing anything when somebody had, and, you know, and reports are coming in every single night. UFOs happen every single night on the planet somewhere, and nobody's doing anything about it. So
But
yeah,
Jeremy,
you gave me the
you
time
know,
to speak.
what
and
do you
I
want
just
them to
started going
do?
off.
They're
Sorry.
going to fail. No matter how much technology and power they think they have, they're going to fail. And you know why they're going to do that? Because they are not people who understand that when their brain stops functioning, they continue. They are spirit. And since they're not plugged into that, then they're not plugged into information that's free to all of us. And this, how many of you have studied near-death experiences or people who have passed on? The one thing that they have found is that always, and it's consistent, is when we leave our body, when we leave our brain, we're smarter. Anything we want to know comes to us naturally. It's like our brain inhibits that ability. But worse off, we've also been told we don't have any abilities and that there is no spirit and there is no life after death. There are no such thing as ghosts. But they think there's UFOs because they've collected a few crashes. They think those beings crashed, screwed up and crashed their craft, and not realizing that those craft were crashed deliberately just to see what the hell we do.
Time.
So they will always continue to fail because they are not connected. They're disconnected from spirit. You talk to any tribal elder and they'll tell you that. They're sitting back right now, those elders, laughing at us. Well, they don't laugh. They're not that vindictive. They know that we're going to fail if we continue this way. They have the answers because they have always talked to the star people since the beginning of time. They've been open communication with them all along. But us, no. We're all cut up. Nature's over here. We're over here. We're better. We're superior. We're going to do what we want to do. They are going to fail. End of story.
Well, Steve, what you're talking about is the difference between worshiping money and worshiping consciousness. You know, your
Yeah,
consciousness,
I am
there's a lot
talking
of
about
beliefs
that.
that think that,
Yeah.
you know, it can go far past. And, you know, if the UFOs are coming and picking people, then they're interested in certain types of consciousnesses, and they must be incredibly curious to be here and doing what they're doing. Not only that, but we don't even know if this is their own home. You know what I mean? We don't really
We
know
don't
where
know a
these
lot of
things are.
things. We can
Danny
only go by our
Sheen,
gut. James, you
Danny
got to
Sheen's
follow your gut, your heart. You know, your heart tells you what's going on. You got to listen to it. That's part of it. And what they're telling me is that they're here to raise consciousness, to connect us back with spirit, because that's the only way as a race we're going to survive.
I agree with all that, and if they have a church or a place of congregation, it's probably 60 miles north of the Isle of Guadalupe, like Danny Sheen was talking. You know what I mean? And all of the reports that are coming from in the ocean and how they're underneath the seafloor. You know, I think that when we look at this phenomenon, we tend to look at this phenomenon as though these are also beings living in the third dimension, rather than actual fourth dimensional beings that can see into the future and have some understanding how things are going to work out. Sort of like when we look at those AIs and you can see a kid go from like a young little baby all the way to old. What if you were able to do that at everything that you looked at? You could see a tree when it was a little sprout to the day that it becomes dirt again. And just the idea that, you know, these people that are there meeting is all these little markers, and they're trying to figure out ways to change the world through these secret sleeper agents of people that the government doesn't even know about, that are out there that are talking about this.
Oh, they know about all of us. Trust me. You see that question down there? I want to answer this one. You know why, Mary, right?
Yes.
I think, and I'm not going to talk too much about it because, you know, I'm talking to a representative from a group of tribal elders, and where they are is out by Devil's Tower. That's one of their sacred places, ironically. And we are talking to them, and we're going to be talking to them, the elders themselves. And there's a very good possibility, since they can't come out here to go in front of camera, they're going to fly us back there for this big event they're having, where they're going to tell us what the hell we're doing wrong, why we're having the problems we're having, and what we need to do to heal the planet. So to answer your question, Rachel, we are working on that. And I'm surprised that they contacted us, because they're very untrusting, and rightly so. Just look at history. I guess the fact that both Mary and I have indigenous blood has made that more comfortable for them, but they also know how we both think about this whole thing. And, you know, we're not big fans of Custer to start with, at the very least. So, and we know that they have been talking to what they call the star people forever. And that's just one group of indigenous people on this planet. Most of them all have, including the Aborigines and the South Americans and so on and so forth. And of course, they're looked upon by, I hate to say us, as a bunch of savages. What do they know? They've always known. So it's my hope that we can get them on the show, and we will have a film and listen to them, what they have to say, because they will tell you this over and over again. We have separated from spirit.
On that note, it's 5:07. I'd like everybody to have something for a last comment. Can we start with you, Earl?
Oh, I didn't get any time to think. Well, I'll just go back to I was thinking about this. My mom was part of the early military-industrial complex and was working with Howard Hughes back in the 1950s. And she told me that never in a million years would they tell the American public that we're not alone. She brought up Orson Welles' War of the Worlds radio broadcast as an example. She said, imagine that happening worldwide in the panic. And she said it could harm world religions and banking systems. And she said, son, it never will happen. And I kept wondering and thinking to myself while I was watching the congressional hearings, I wonder what my mom would think about all this. Because I mean, she made a mistake when I was little and told me, what she knew. She really reiterated again that, after seeing Star Wars in 1977, and but most of the time, lips were zipped. Loose lips sink ships was the old the creed that they would give people that knew stuff in the military. My mom was wrong, I think, because here they are talking about this in public and talking about crash retrieval. So I don't expect anything. That's kind of where I came in to this thing with. So I'm happy with. I'm surprised that we got as much as we did, and that they're trying to shake this stuff out. So that's my thought.
Okay, Judy.
Good one, flea market. I agree.
So I just kind of think we're all on the right track. I mean, you guys have congratulations for being up for a year now.
Thank you.
I think you just keep, putting a penny in the bank every day, keep doing what we're doing, keep doing what you're doing. And I think we're the disclosure and, a preponderance of evidence. You get enough people that have said this has happened to me, it's got to mean something.
Yeah, and wait till people see your show, especially at the end. You bring down the house. It was just
True.
Our jaws were dropping after when we watched it just recently.
Thank you. Well, I have to apologize for the sunburn. Andy and I were enjoying Southern California.
I thought you looked great.
Okay.
I cannot wait to spend more time out there with y'all because it's beautiful out there.
Yeah. Okay, Joe.
I have to ditto what Steve just said. Thank you so much, Flea Market, for that comment. Having watched the congressional hearings over the past week and having watched the Netflix show over that same time period, I really don't hold out a lot of hope that anything of substance is going to be revealed in the near future. I agree with Mr. Anderson that a lot of this is just spinning of wheels. I think the government, I think the power of our government is so vastly overwhelming compared to the people that want to see some of this proven or come to light, that it just isn't going to happen. It just won't. I hate saying that because just like all of you on screen, and I'm sure a lot of these folks in chat, we all know that this is real. We all know that this is mysterious, and we would certainly all like to know why. But I just, although I consider myself an optimist on this particular topic, I'm pessimistic.
Understand.
Love it, Dennis. Thank you.
James, would you like to?
Sure. I guess the more time that I spend with Michael Schrapp, who's the aerospace historian and the Leonard Stringfield historian as well, I noticed that Stringfield has been completely left out of the history books. When I see National Geographic or any of their content, I only see Hynek. I never see Leonard ever. And that says a lot to me, because if you look at Leonard, he's talking about the history of UAP crash retrieval, and he's got all of it. He's got 118 cases. And I mean, we're talking about firefights in Cambodia with the U.S. military, and UFOs during Vietnam. We're talking about an extensive, long history where the government has so much stuff. It's incredible. So, at the end of the day, the thing that's really suffering here is not people like us who have had experiences needing to be validated. I think that's really the lower end of the totem pole. I think what's really important here is that the vast majority of people have no idea what's actually going on in the universe. And that's a
Yeah, that's
that's a
true.
real big problem.
It is.
Especially when, like, if you think about it, all of this stuff with space people or whatever, well, this would have to be a new sector of astronomy. I mean, if you're going to talk about the evolution of stars and planets and galaxies and universes, we probably should talk about other intelligent life too, and there should be space for that. So yeah, the fact that the aerospace defense contractors are not there taking the blame for this, when we see Google, who has absolutely dominated the search engine space, is now being rolled up for the fact that they ran a monopoly. And this is the same thing with our government. They're running a monopoly on all of this, intelligence. And we could have a society that would be a lot better if we decided to stop killing each other and spending money on this war machine that it just perpetuates itself, creates more war, creates more famines, and creates more war to sell more guns to kill more people. So yeah, I don't see anything happening at all. I think that we're just going to kind of live in this world of shit, and things are going to get really, really bad. And I hope that the UFOs show up. I mean, I honestly think that's what's going to happen. No one's going to do a damn thing. And if they don't come down and do something, nobody will. And we can say that with climate change. We can say that with the human effect on this planet. We got a serious problem, and there needs to be a personal revolution that needs to happen in every single human being to realize how important all of this stuff is. Because if we don't communicate with them, and the Native Americans did, and the Aborigines, all these different people, what are we doing? Is this real civilization? Maybe this isn't even realized civilization. This is just all based off of worshiping of money.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
I remember Leonard Strinkfield.
Wonderful.
There's his book right there.
Wonderful.
I can find it pretty.
Situation red, yes.
For as disabled
Love
as I
that
am, I
book.
can find it pretty quick. Yeah, it's quite a book in every one of the cases. You know, a 1,000-mile journey starts with a single step. And if you think back to my 65th birthday, which was December 16th, 2017, when the New York Times and Politico released those three videos that Lou Elizondo got declassified. There's no period in my lifetime or my father's lifetime that we've made this much progress. Now, you know, we still have a lot of progress to make. There's no question about it. But I think at least some of us are trying to make something happen. And I know it's beating our head against the wall. And we are living in a second Gilded Age. If you remember from your history books about the
Yep.
late 1800s,
Yes.
and the basic control of people like the Rockefellers, and
Yes.
and so many libraries are named after these people. But we seem to be in another era of that.
The
And that,
oligarchs.
at the same time, we're fighting for this. But I know I am not working for this. Here I'm the chairman of the board of the Disclosure Advocacy Group, but I'm not really working for disclosure. What I'm working for
I get that.
is
Me
the
too.
result, is the result of disclosure. That people will realize that they have more in common with someone living in Mozambique than they have with someone on Zeta Reticuli or whatever planet. You know, who knows what's behind the curtain? We think we do as experiencers. We're light years ahead of everyone else on this note, and I think we should be leading. And I know that's what I'm spending my last few years doing, because my doctor told me I'm not going to live forever. I was shocked with that diagnosis, but I think we're making progress. The trouble is, progress at the government level is glacial.
Mm.
And but things pick up. If you remember Mothers Against Drunk Drivers,
Hmm.
I mean, everyone just about who drank never worried about having a few drinks before getting in a car, before that happened. And it changed people's mindsets. And so my hope is that we can, whether it's through the government or through experiences ourselves, like Yvonne Smith says, if we can turn a couple of clicks in people's minds and go from Morse code to HDTV, and see beyond. I think we can make this planet a better place, and we're running out of time.
Yeah.
And be
Okay.
sure Whitley's book is finished. It's going to come out soon, and it's going to be something that's probably
Mhm.
going to cause as much of a ruckus as his first book, Communion, did. So there's going to be a lot of things in that book
Cool.
that you don't know about in relationship to the visitors that he's going to spill to the public for the very first time. So be sure to catch it when it comes out.
Okay. I would like to thank everybody for hanging in with us for an entire year.
Yeah.
It's been an amazing ride. Thank you for
Yes.
all your secret stories. The well's been dry, so I'm looking for some more stories if you want to send them in. But I just appreciate all the love and the fact that we've been able to make such a fabulous community. So thank everybody very, very much. And I'll
Yeah.
give
I
it
want to
back
thank Dr.
Steve.
Gale too for having me on her show the other day. She's a real great lady.
That was a really good interview. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. And we will be back for a second season of Breaking the Silence.
All right.
I just talked to our sponsors, and they told us we've been picked up, right, Mary?
Okay, I'll support you.
I'll support you. I love you.
Aw.
Okay, you guys, it
Okay.
was absolutely wonderful spending this time with every one of you, and also every one of you in chat, in our community, our family. We love
You
you.
are breaking the
Thank you so
silence.
much. And thank you, James.
Good to
Okay.
see you,
Yes.
James.
We'll see you next
Good to
time.
meet you, Joe.
Oh,
Finally,
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Wes.
Bye, Earl.
and you too, Jim.
Thank you.
Hey, all right, you guys.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Bye.
we'll see you.
Thank you, West.
Bye.